if you are looking for some support for current affairs, if you are a fresher, you are a working professional, you are a repeater, but you want some support for current affairs, then I have a program for you. I have given the brochure and also the announcement video link in the description. You can watch if you are interested. Right, class starts from 14th of February. Hello all, welcome back to Current Affairs Hitlist series. I'm Guna Mathivanan from Officers IAS Academy. So in today's video, we are going to continue with our budget basics topic. So if you are watching this budget basics for the first time, then please watch my previous budget basics topics to have complete clarity on what we are going to discuss today. Right? Especially please watch my fiscal deficit topic so that you will understand today's topic, that is primary deficit. Primary deficit. So to understand primary deficit, let me take an analogy first, then we will come to the actual understanding. Now let's take Guna. Now Guna is earning 1 lakh rupees per month. Guna is earning, my income is 1 lakh rupees. Okay. If you take Guna's expenditure, Guna is spending almost 60,000 rupees. So Guna's expenditure is 60,000 rupees. So how much Guna is able to save? So Guna is able to save 40,000 rupees. So Guna is able to save 40,000. If someone comes and asks me, Guna, what is your income? I say 1 lakh rupees. Guna, how much are you able to save? I say I am able to save 40,000. They will appreciate. They'll say, Guna, very good, fantastic. You are doing a good job. But let me assume. Now Guna's father has borrowed some 1 crore rupees. Assume Guna's father has borrowed 1 crore rupees earlier, some time back. Now for which Guna's father has borrowed, but for which Guna is paying the interest. The interest Guna is paying. How much interest, sir? 1 lakh rupees interest Guna is paying. See, Guna's father has borrowed 1 crore rupees, for which interest has to be paid. The interest amount is 1 lakh. Assume that interest amount of 1 lakh. Guna is paying. That interest of 1 lakh rupees Guna is paying. So now what happens to the total expenditure? Guna's actual expenditure is 60,000 and Guna has to pay another 1 lakh rupees interest. That is, Guna's father has borrowed, for which Guna is paying that interest. Okay. So what happens to total expenditure now? My total expenditure after adding the interest payments, my total expenditure 60,000 rupees plus this 1 lakh. So my total expenditure is 1,60,000. So my total expenditure is 1,60,000. My total income, Guna's total income is 1 lakh. Guna's income is 1 lakh. Guna's total expenditure is now 1,60,000. Now can Guna save? There is nothing to save. Rather, Guna is having a deficit of 60,000 rupees. Guna is having a deficit of 60,000 rupees. Right? So if someone comes and asks me, Guna, what is your income? I say 1 lakh. Guna, how much are you able to save? I will say, sorry, I am not able to save anything. I have 60,000 rupees of deficit. Then others will criticize me. But do you think that this situation reflects my current imbalances? Do you think this reflects my personal financial position? Do you think this reflects my situation? Right? Definitely no. My income is sufficient enough to cover my expenditure and I am able to save also. But my father has borrowed something for which today I am paying interest. Because of that interest payments, I am facing deficit. This is case 1. Let's take another case. So in this case, let's slightly change the numbers. Guna's income is 1 lakh only. No change. Guna's income is 1 lakh only. But Guna's expenditure, Guna is spending 1,50,000 expenditure. Guna is spending 1,50,000. So my income is 1 lakh rupees. My expenditure is 1,50,000. Am I able to save anything? No, there is shortage. There is shortage of 50,000 rupees. There is shortage of 50,000 rupees. Someone comes and asks me, I will say my income is 1 lakh. If they ask me, what is your savings, Guna? Sorry, I do not save. I have a deficit of 50,000 rupees. Then they will criticize. This is my current situation. Case 2. I'm taking case 2 now. Previous example is different. I'm taking a new example. So I say someone asks me, what is my income? 1 lakh. What is your savings? Sorry, sir, I have a deficit of 50,000. Now in this situation, let me assume my mother, Guna's mother, has given 1 crore loan to someone. Has given loan. My mother gave 1 crore loan to someone. In previous example, what did I say? My father borrowed 1 crore from someone. That is previous example. But now I am saying my mother has given 1 crore rupees loan. My mother has given 1 crore rupees loan to someone. Now that someone is paying interest. That someone is paying interest. To whom he is paying? He is paying the interest to Guna. How much interest? 1 lakh rupees. My mother gave 1 crore to someone. That someone is giving interest. The interest is coming to Guna. So now what happens? The interest is worth 1 lakh rupees. That is coming to Guna. So now what is Guna's total income? What is Guna's total income? I would say total receipt. Instead of income, I would call it as receipt. How much Guna totally gets? Guna gets an income of 1 lakh. Guna gets an income of 1 lakh. That is one thing. Plus, now this interest payment, that is going to be another 1 lakh. This interest payment, that is going to be another 1 lakh. So put it together, that is going to be 2 lakh rupees. Put it together, that is going to be 2 lakh rupees. So after receiving this 1 lakh rupees of interest payments, Guna's income became 2 lakhs. Now what is Guna's expenditure? Guna's expenditure is 1,50,000. Guna's expenditure is 1,50,000. Guna's income is now 2 lakh rupees. So I am able to save, Guna is able to save 50,000 rupees. Guna is able to save 50,000 rupees. Guna is able to save 50,000 rupees. Right? Someone comes and asks me, Guna, what is your income? I say 1 lakh. How much are you able to save? I will say, I am saving 50,000. They will appreciate me. They will definitely appreciate me. But do you think this is reflecting my performance? My performance is deficit. My performance is deficit. But since I am getting an additional interest payment, that is making me to save extra 50,000 rupees. So what we are able to understand in both the examples, in the previous example, my father's borrowing, or in the current example, my mother's lending, in both the cases, right, that both the cases, when that interest payments or interest received, when I bring it to Guna's accounts, Guna's reality is distorted. Guna's reality is disturbed. Because in this case, Guna's reality is, so in this current case, Guna's reality is bad. Guna is having a deficit. Right? But that is not shown. Finally, it appears Guna is able to save. In the previous case, in the previous example, Guna was having surplus. But because Guna was to pay the interests for the father's borrowing, ultimately Guna is facing huge deficit. So both the situations is distorting the reality. So if we want to know the current fiscal imbalances of Guna, we should not take the interest part into consideration. Yes or no? Don't take this interest part into consideration. Whether interest received or interest to be paid, don't take that into consideration. And then calculate Guna's finances. That will be correct. Apply the same thing. Apply the same logic for the government as well. Then he will get primary deficit. So, we all know the fiscal deficit. We all know what is fiscal deficit. So, fiscal deficit is the amount which the government borrows to meet the shortages. Please watch fiscal deficit video if you are not having clarity on this topic. Okay. So, fiscal deficit is the actual shortage which government faces. But this shortage is influenced by the interest part. This shortage is influenced by the interest part. So we saw the Guna's example. In Guna's example, Guna's fiscal position is influenced by the interest part, right? So I don't want the influence of this interest. I don't want the influence of the interest. So from the fiscal deficit, let me remove this interest part. Let me remove this interest part. What I have to remove? Whatever interest the government gets, that has to be removed. Whatever interest government has to pay, that has to be removed. So minus net interest payments, or we can say net interest liabilities, anything. So primary deficit is nothing but fiscal deficit minus net interest payments or net interest liabilities. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to measure the current fiscal imbalance. Current fiscal imbalance. What is my current fiscal imbalance? This government, for this year, what is their current fiscal imbalance? See, my father has borrowed, my mother has given loan, like that previous governments would have borrowed. Previous governments would have given loans. Don't take that. Previous government would have borrowed money for which you have to pay interest. Previous government would have given loan for which you will be receiving interest. Don't take that interest part into consideration. Right? Remove that interest part from your fiscal deficit. So from your fiscal deficit, you remove the net interest payments. What is net? Whatever interest I receive, whatever interest I pay, right? That balance is called as the net part. You take that net part, then you'll be getting primary deficit. See, in most of the reference books available in the market, they simply say minus interest payments. That is also fine. But your NCERT specifically uses the net interest payments or net interest liabilities. Right? So now I will give you the fiscal deficit data. I will also give you the primary deficit data. Now with this primary deficit and fiscal deficit, you are going to tell me what is the interest amount which we are paying. We can find out, right? If I give you what is primary deficit and what is fiscal deficit, then you can easily calculate what is the amount of interest we are paying, right, every year. So that I want you to calculate and give it in the comment section. So as per the latest 2024-2025 budget data, the country's fiscal deficit is 16.85 lakh crores. The country's primary deficit is 4.95 lakh crores. Now you tell me what is the amount of interest which we are paying for 24-25. That you give it in the comment section. I hope you got clarity on this topic. I hope this series is adding value to your preparation. I will see you tomorrow with another interesting topic. Till then, bye. Take care.